Welcome to the Theory of Conspiracy. Don't adjust your headsets. You are listening to three northern lads from the UK discussing mainstream and non-mainstream conspiracy, talking about our own beliefs and challenging each other's.
Hello TheoCons, Andy here, with some thoughts from the editing suite. Technically I'm outside having a walk, I'm not in the editing suite at all. As you can guess by the title of this episode, we might go a bit heavy and talk about some bad people, but I hope we kept it a bit light-hearted. Talking of bad people, although this didn't really come up in the podcast, did make me think back to a film I watched last week called Dark Waters. Obviously there's a lot of good people and a lot of bad people in the world we live in, both recent times and in our history. But Dark Waters was particularly disturbing, I thought, because if you've not seen it or haven't heard about it, it's basically about a lawyer who pursues a chemical company called DuPont, which was basically poisoning US citizens for over 40 years. But not only that, they've managed to contaminate the whole planet. Apparently 99% of all humans alive today have traces of the chemicals that these guys were basically just pouring out into the environment without a care in the world, because they were making millions. If you think that sounds shocking and appalling, you're absolutely right. So it's definitely not a feel-good movie, but I think it's one of those films everyone should watch, basically. And if you are as shocked and appalled as I was after watching it, you can go on to darkwatersfilm.co.uk, or you can just Google Dark Waters Take Action, and there's a petition on there. Literally takes 60 seconds to put your name in and sign up to it. So one more thing before we start the podcast is Carlos messaged me earlier to say what a coincidence that we're covering Operation Paperclip, because there's a show he watches on Amazon called Hunters, and apparently it mentions Operation Paperclip all the time. So there you go. Anyway, thanks for indulging me. As usual, if you're enjoying this podcast, you want to hear more from us, you want to get involved, any suggestions, tell us if you agree with anything we say, if you disagree with anything we say, we'd just love to hear any feedback. You can subscribe, like the podcast, obviously, leave a review, because we'll read all the reviews. If you want to get in touch on social media, we're on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and it's at TheoConPod, which is at TheoConPod, and on Facebook we're Theory of Conspiracy. Just look out for that big yellow triangle in our logo. So thanks, and enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Nick, and I'm the truther.
Hi, I'm Andy the Skeptic.
Hello, I'm Carlos. I believe.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 3 called Operation Paperclip. For those people who are not sure what Operation Paperclip is, it was basically the US military, US government went into Nazi Germany just when the war was ending in 1945 and taking all their great scientists, mathematicians and physicists and rocketeers out of the Germany and straight to United States. The question is, have we benefited from the Third Reich? And there's many things we could talk about, but the one area I'm going to talk about is, has the Third Reich enhanced our ability in things like rocketry, science, and mathematics? I personally think we've been enhanced through the Third Reich. I'll open up to you two. What's your opinion on the obviously Operation Paperclip, and if do you know much about it?
I've heard of it. So by enhanced, do you mean our technology and stuff has improved?
Massively,
we've
yes.
not been genetically enhanced or anything like that. Right, I'll just get that
No,
straight.
not genetically or DNA wise, but basically things like rocketry. The technology used today is all come through the Third Reich, all their intel and all their scientists, rocketeers, and engineers.
Okay, nobody's benefited from the Third Reich. I think, yeah, it might have been the foundation of things, but you could say that the same thing for Volkswagen. You know, we're driving about in nicer cars with better gearboxes and engines because of the Third Reich. I don't think so. I think they had their day like everybody else had their day, and yeah, I mean, people standing on the shoulders of giants, even if they're evil giants, but because they're evil giants, they get less recognition for it. So all their evilness outdoes any kudos they can get from anything good that come out of anything they invented. It's as simple as that.
It's a bit like that Life of Brian sketch, isn't it? What did the Romans ever do for us? Oh, aqueducts. Oh, well, yeah, but apart from aqueducts, what did the Romans
Yeah.
ever do for us? Yeah, it's one of them things. I mean, obviously, I had heard of Operation Paperclip, and from what I know, the Nazis or the German army, whatever, they were collating all these scientists, and I'm sure a lot of them weren't willingly doing it and had their families threatened, and they were threatened, and I'm sure some were willingly doing it. And they worked towards whatever
Yeah, and I
projects
think given
that they were
the
put on.
time as well, they would the choice is either they didn't have much choice. They either get collected by the Americans and off to America to live in California, nice and dandy, or they get collected by the Russians off to Siberia to live somewhere not so dandy. I know which ones I would prefer.
Well, there was two choices. Sorry, there was the third choice. The third choice was Great Britain. What happened is during the 1945, Wernher von Braun started. He handpicked about 150 of them, and they had to say which side are we going to surrender to. Like you just said, a lot of them said, you know what, I prefer the Western world. Some said, you know what, forget the Western world, I'll turn to a communist state. There was about three choices. United Kingdom did take some. They took about 50, 60, but rumor has it that American have quoted 1,600 scientists, but I've read about 3 or 4 books. Operation Paperclip is one of them. There's anything between tens of thousands of Nazi scientists were taken over, but that's just hearsay. But allegedly, 1,600. Some of these were some of the most evilest people to walk the face of this planet, like Wernher von Braun, who was the head of the rocketry and helped. He was the one who built the Saturn V rocket. He used to hang five worst performing workers outside his factory. So if you were in the bottom five worst workers, you were hung to say, listen, you have to pull your finger out and work for me, otherwise. But America knew all this and they forgave him because obviously he knew he would enhance their rocket program. And NASA didn't exist, but we'll talk about that later on. But NASA didn't exist. He was the one who put obviously Neil Armstrong on the moon. That just shows the Third Reich have enhanced our world. Love it or hate it, they have. They've took it to another level.
You could say that about any war, though, couldn't you?
Not so much so
Major
World
war
War
like that.
Two. World War Two was the pinnacle. All wars of obviously people do divide and conquer. Genghis Khan famously, when he used to, I think Genghis Khan was responsible for killing 50 to 60 million people. Genghis Khan used to, when he used to take over in Asia and approach these warlords, he goes, you know what? This warlord is a brutal killer. He used to go to them, listen, continue doing what you're doing, but kill in my name. So people do, and they go, yeah, okay, we'll obviously we'll turn to the Mongols. So that's what America did. America just said, listen, continue doing what you do, but do it in our name, do it in our identity.
What I read is they were using labourers from local concentration camps,
Yep.
and apparently up to 20,000 people died working for them. But I couldn't find anything about him being responsible for hanging people outside his factory and stuff.
Yeah, it's documented. The five worst performing workers hanged outside his factory to show he was a member of the SS. He was a hardcore Nazi. He was one of Adolf Hitler's top men. And this is the scary thing about it. Wernher von Braun had the ear of 7 American presidents. 7. He influenced 7 American presidents. So this guy is not a nobody. This guy, that's what I say, did the Third Reich enhance? If you got the ear of Adolf Hitler and you got the ear of 7 American presidents, you have influence on which direction the world is going. You have, yeah. You're actually advising the, or at the time, Adolf Hitler was the strongest, most powerful man in the world. And when you become the president of the United States, you are technically the most powerful man in the world. He influenced 8 of the most powerful men in the world, I should say. Nick mentioned Volkswagen. Yeah, correct. It was Ferdinand Porsche designed the Porsche. Hugo Boss designed the car. Adolf Dassler, Adi Dassler, created Adidas. His brother, and also Nazi, Rudolf Dassler, created Puma. And it just shows it's just so all these people, and we are living. These people have enhanced our world, right or wrong.
See, it goes back to your question. Well, I don't think you've posed it yet, but yeah, these anybody that I don't trust these people, man, and they all benefit, or they all knew they'd benefit from taking these scientists on board, and they did it out of greed and their evil that is man. Why wasn't he tried for war crimes then? Why, surely, if he's was that well known an SS officer, why wasn't he tried for war crimes?
Well, they said if he was still alive today, he would be tried for war crimes. He would, but I think there was only one officer in the Operation Paperclip out of the 1600 was actually outed as a Nazi, and guess where he ran to? He ran off to
Don't say Argentina.
Argentina. Argentina, yes, and I think his name was Otto Ambros. Otto Brammer. He was the one who created the vaccine. Uh, I don't know if you've heard the name Joseph Mengele. Joseph Mengele he was like a kindergarten teacher compared to this guy. And Americans took him out of the docks, the Nuremberg docks, and took him to America, a part of Operation Paperclip.
That says it all for me. I mean, as far as I'm aware, the Americans financed all sides of the Second World War, and they made a hell of a lot of money out of it.
But he would help us in the vaccine department.
The evil that men do, they are also capable of some good. But I guess, again, for these people, his driver creating that vaccine was probably greed rather than fucking humanity.
Curiosity, I think, probably curiosity. It's like,
Yeah,
why
hopefully.
do you put your fingers in it? Because it's like you as a kid, and that's it. We're all born scientists. Why do you put your fingers in holes? Why do you put your tongue on an ice bucket or something like that? We're inquisitive. We're all inquisitive. It's an interesting subject. It's obviously it's one of the things you can imagine. I can go on for hours. But do you know the scary thing about this? This was only come to about the Operation Paperclip in the late 80s, early 90s by a lady called Linda Hunt, who obviously did the Freedom of Information Act. And guess you know how much the American government charged her to get that information? $125,000 for ink. Ink. I was in school when I come across it because I come across this. I don't know what you call it now, but do you know when you run newspapers under like in a machine and you use a magnifying
Microfiche.
glass. What's it called? Sorry,
A microfiche.
microfiche. That's it. So my school teacher said, Carlos, you'll be interested in the subject. That's at the age of 12, 13 years old. People already thought I had an idea for this, and they were passing all this information to me, and that's how I came across it. A lady called Linda Hunt exposed it all, and so shout out to Linda Hunt. Thank you for exposing this. I don't know if she's alive or not. I'm not sure. The next subject, obviously, the next criteria of this subject is: are we easy to forgive our past if it benefits us as a company or a country? So what I'm trying to say is, it follows on from the first criteria: is are we willing to forgive or turn a blind eye to people's evil
No,
past
no,
if it makes us better people? Nick, I know you're
no.
jumping in there by saying no, but why? Because history says that people are
Right,
willing to
wait.
forgive.
Okay, let me tell you what would happen if when they'd stole these Nazis to live in California in luxury. If they had told the people, "Oh look, we've stolen all these war criminals and they're living in California in luxury because in the years to come we're going to benefit from them," the people would have said, "No chance, no chance. Please return these people to the dock." But they don't give the people a choice. So the only people that agreed that they would, that it was a good thing and to benefit from it are the, probably the American war
The people who
industrial
benefited from it.
complex machine. Yeah, all of them. And the people that knew about it, the secret people that knew about it. Not us and not the people. If they told the people this, the people would have said, no, let's take our chance on the next guy that comes along that's not murdered innocent people and done crazy, megalomaniac stuff like that.
Yeah, just the people involved in the Joint Intelligence Agency.
Well, that's who they say, but ultimately the people that benefited from it would have been the American war complex.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. They would have hidden it to get to. It would have been right before we do anything about these guys. Let's get the knowledge from them, and then as they're getting the knowledge from them, they're going, "Oh, actually, we've got a project over here where the knowledge isn't enough. We need them to continue working on it, so they're going to keep the gob shut." But I'm sure, decades afterwards, loads of them were. I don't, there's stories and films and stuff, based on this sort of stuff where they're tracked down and years later they're tried for their crimes and everything because it comes out that what they did when they were.
Yeah, but those are ones that are in hiding. These ones are well known. They've been given new names.
Yes, that's correct. No. They're not being given new names. They've been pardoned. That's the difference. They've been pardoned. What you've just mentioned, Andy, is correct. Is that these people have come over and say, my name used to be Victor Schauberger, but now it's John Smith today. But it's the ones like Werner von Braun. Everybody knew Werner von Braun was an SS soldier. He had the ear of Adolf Hitler, but because he was in his subject, he was the king. He was like the pinnacle. He was the quintessential rocketeer. So America says, I know what you've done. It's been pardoned, but come over to us and forget the past. He was never tried. Would you? Okay, open question to both of you. You've got a company. You've got a guy who's his reputation is the best at his job, but you know what? He's done some pretty horrible things in his life.
Is he sorry?
No, because they're not sorry because they've
Well,
got
there
the
you
idea.
go.
The
See,
thing is, they've got the
no,
idea.
there's no
They're not
forgiveness.
sorry.
If there's not repent, there's if he's not going to repent and say sorry, like I'm on about Von Braun as well as this guy you're on about now. If they're not going to apologise for their crimes, and at least offer that across to the victims, then there is no forgiveness. That's the end of the story. Forgiveness begins after that.
I don't think it's comparable to the same situation. It's you're saying, okay, about this guy, are you going to employ him or not? I don't think it's as easy as that. Yeah, they brought Von Braun over, right? And as far as I know, I've just got your word that he did all these evil things because I looked at his biography and stuff, and Operation Paperclip and some other websites, and I couldn't really find anything on him. In fact, I found that one thing was he was actually arrested by the Gestapo because of the way he was speaking about what was going on in the war. So he was almost arrested by his own people he was working for because he was being a bit too outspoken and not agreeing with what was going on.
Because you didn't know till the late 1980s, early 90s when Linda Hunt published it. You didn't know. You didn't know. You just thought he was the good Germans. So America portrayed him as the good. These were the good Germans who got out. These were the good Germans. It's like you saying, "Oh, let's employ Jimmy Savile because he will help us get more charity money in."
You know what? For me, it goes back to there's no such thing as free will. You don't have a choice. So here you've got a great mind that was unfortunate enough to be born within the gripping distance of the Nazi power base, and he had no choice. Whether he supported it or not, you know what I mean. You kind of it's mob mentality is the way psychology worked in that sense. But he didn't have much choice, did he? It was either do or die in some respect. Some people went at it a bit harder than others, but you look at the people who are not venerated, like the people that have invented the atomic bomb, that went on to kill hundreds of thousands of people. They are no lesser guilty of heinous crimes than von Braun was because of where they were born and because of who was utilizing their abilities. So while it's right to hate everything about that, the evil things that group of people that did evil things, but there's plenty other groups of people that have done evil things before them, and there's even more groups of people doing more evil things now, even today.
Yep.
So yeah, it's yeah, he was a bad man. If he said sorry, then I'd be happy to that he had thought better of some of the things that resulted out of his actions. But at the same time, I'm sure deep down he thought he was trying to do a good thing ultimately.
I've probably read probably about 200 plus books on the Third Reich, World War II, since the age of 12 to now. And I still, obviously, have I read every book? No, there's probably a million books out there. But I still, the people who have sort of been interviewed and all that, I don't see any remorse. So the next subject would be: are we already living in a Fourth Reich world? And I'll elaborate. Fourth Reich world could be Adidas, Puma, Hugo Boss, Porsche, Volkswagen, NASA. All these companies are surrounded us. They've enhanced our worlds. Is the Fourth Reich not? People just assume the Fourth Reich is everybody goose stepping around Manchester or around London or around Berlin or around Buenos Aires or New York, or basically just doing Nazi salutes, or just literally everybody talking German. So maybe is this or are we living in a Fourth Reich, but the Fourth Reich in a different concept through technology, through clothes, the way we talk, the way we eat, the way we drive our cars. Is that could that be a Fourth Reich?
I don't think that. I mean, Reich just means like realm or empire.
Correct.
So I mean, you told me yourself. The first one was the Roman
Holy,
Empire.
Holy Roman Empire from
Yeah,
800 AD to 1800.
I'm not sure what the second was. And then
It was
the
from 1890 to 1918, I think it was.
right,
And
and
then
then
the Third
obviously the
Reich was
second one.
1933 to 1944, 1945, I should say.
Okay, so the Germans were two of them Reichs, but
Correct.
you could argue that the EU is a Reich because it's consolidated. It's consolidated all these countries. America could be a Reich.
Yeah, business. Today's business is a Fourth Reich. Yeah, everything's. Look at where all the money's gone now. The money's gone up. None of it's coming back. Nobody's benefiting from this. They say our lives are going to get better with all these technologies. I don't see it. You're just making us work harder.
But don't you find that if you turn around and says your kid was a brilliant mathematician, a great physicist, a great scientist, where do you send your children? The pioneer of any company in the world, NASA. NASA was set up by the Third Reich. It was set up by Nazis. All the top directors and top people were all Nazis. So we inspire to work for like the Nazis. We aspire to be Nazis. I don't mean literally Nazis, but the company they helped build was set up by Nazis.
Well, you could equally say it was set up by men, and maybe there was a few women there as well. And maybe one of them used to be a dentist.
Women came later, but the pioneers, the guy who built the Saturn V rocket was Wernher von Braun. You have to do is take the American flag off, so take the swastika off, put the American flag on, and you've got a V2 rocket, but it's called the Saturn V. These are all the directors were all literally Nazis.
Yeah, but I'm sure some of them were Leos, some of them were Capricorns. Yeah, you know what I mean. You can draw your distinction where you want. Uh, were they practicing Nazis? Were they persecuting Jews and planning global domination? I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen much of a result of that, unless it's actually what's going on now. That they've managed to achieve it through this global domination of business and the markets and shares and capitalism. Maybe that was their plan all along. And if it was, they've pulled it off. They're winning. But otherwise, what did they go on to do? They've gone on to send a few guys to the moon. And what else? I don't know. Have we got digital watches? Quantum mechanics as a result of? Did they have anything to do with quantum mechanics? Maybe, possibly, yeah. Why not? Happy to believe that. And ultimately, yeah, we've
GPS,
benefited from
satellites,
that.
radar.
It's no longer the Third Reich. It's no longer Nazis. It's no longer German. It's American. It's it's none of these things anymore. It's moved on from there. So yeah, they may have had a shared history and involvement in that, but once they moved over there, within a few years, their allegiance, some of them, their allegiances would have dumbed down a little bit, and they'll be focusing on the job at hand, which they did, obviously, considering that was 1945, and it wasn't until 1969 or whatever that they put a man on the moon. You know, they were pretty busy for those fucking 30 years.
Yeah, they were building rockets because it was like, I think
Yeah,
it was
exactly. So
1963.
let's forgive them. Let's hope they were repentant, and let's forgive them for their Nazi connections. And let's say that what the Americans did was get a lot of formerly evil, now nice, minds together to benefit mankind. And I would be happier to look at it like that than rather to think that Jesus Christ, they're still at it.
Well, that's the thing is that's probably that's not the way they want you to think, because it's obviously they've changed, they've made you think that way, because you'd be a perfect PR person for them. That's it, because the way you said they were bad, now they've repent, now they're doing good. I bet you think, I wish everybody thought like Nick does. But I am actually seeing they were evil and they were still evil, but we've
Yeah,
benefited
but
from them.
what more
And
evil did they do after then? Give me an example of what more evil they did after 1945.
okay, Werner von Braun famously said. They were asking him how to control the people, how to control the governments, and how to go. He says, firstly, terror. You control the government. You control the people with terror, climate change, and alien invasion. And Kissinger sort of echoed his thoughts. He says, control the water, you control the people. Control the oil, you control the governments. So Werner von Braun in the 1950s says, terror, climate change, alien invasion. We've had 2 out of 3. I'm not saying that this is the 1950s, because with how do you control? So that's what I'm just saying to you. Are we living in a fourth Reich?
How
Because
do you
said
know
they
we've
took
not had
their
3 out
ideology.
of 3, Carlos? How do you know?
Well,
That could be the
I don't
subject
know.
of our next podcast.
That's as of the second, the world will say we've had 2 of them. Obviously, I have no physical evidence we've been invaded by aliens, but like I said, that's a different conversation. But that's what Werner von Braun said in the 1950s, and Kissinger echoed him.
Going back to my question, then, for me to feel that I've benefited from this Third Reich in some way, I would need to see evidence of something he's done that's more evil after he was taken away from the Third Reich. And have you got any other than he said a couple of bad things? But I mean, to me, they're just observations. You know, anybody could come up with
Yeah,
that.
but it's like Al Capone. Al Capone killed many people, but they did him on tax evasion. I mean, so that's the thing, is that you're never going to find a smoking gun with these people. Never. They'll orchestrate it. It's like people. How many people have how many people have the U.S. presidents killed? 0, but they've ordered the deaths of millions. So on to the next and the final subject. Because it goes back to what you're saying. That it's a great segue again. It's like you're reading my thoughts. It's like Carl Jung famously said, "If you don't know what someone's doing, look at their outcome." You just says, "Tell me what they've done to done. What have they done anything bad since after 1945?" Sometimes you may think they're doing something bad, but they have a different outcome. And that's where. What do you think? Are they creating a smokescreen?
There's no doubt in my mind, right, that these these crazy people benefiting from this kind of evil, Americans again, the same kind of people that told Saddam Hussein it was a good idea to invade Kuwait, right? I'm no doubt that Hitler had similar people telling him it was a good idea to invade Poland, and those same people benefited massively from both of those. Not same people as in person, but same institutions, and benefited massively from both of those campaigns. It's the evil that men do.
I agree with Nick on quite a few of those points. I'm struggling to see, once the war ended, what evil they continue to do. You know, you would have to spend years looking into every single one of these names and getting these names. I don't even agree with the fact that NASA was a Nazi company set up by Nazis, because
No,
100%.
their main people were Nazis.
That's a bit different to what you said earlier. So 100% the money for NASA was American, right? 100% did they have some rocket expertise on the team? Yes, they did. And because they know the most about the rockets, did they propel up the chain and become directors and blah, blah, blah? Yes, they did. But you got to remember that NASA was not there to make money out of doing what it was doing. NASA is there for exploratory scientific reasons, and and then in the 60s they were challenged by the president. We're going to get to the moon. We're going to get to the moon, and it was and the whole space race thing. That's got nothing to do with any sort of Nazi agenda, Fourth Reich, Third Reich, Fifth Reich, whatever. As far as I can see, it's just not connected. It just so happens that some of those experts they used might have been willingly Nazis and Nazi sympathizers and agreed with what was happening. They might not have when they were working, and they were working under duress, in fear of the families getting tortured and killed, themselves getting tortured and killed, and that's why they were in that situation. And without looking at every single one of those names, which I wouldn't even know where to start, I can't jump to conclusions and stuff like that. And
Yeah, I think you're the only one here that thinks that we have benefited from the fucking Nazis, Carlos. I think both and Andy are in agreement that, yeah, evil that men do, they went on to done something that wasn't so evil, and, well, let's focus on that rather than the negatives.
Okay. Let me answer that question from both of you. Maybe that this outcome was to give the world some technology, and then we buy into that technology. That is the Fourth Reich. I'm just. This is not my.
What's so bad about technology?
No, it's just because no, technology is brilliant. I love technology, but it's where it's come from. It's where it's come from that it could be bad.
I think we're just benefiting from the progress of man. In fact, I don't even think we're benefiting at all. I think we're in the decline of civilization, and this technology is helping that along the way.
It's been an interesting podcast. I've enjoyed this podcast.
Stick around for some bloopers and sound bites taken out of context that didn't make the edit for this episode, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
What do you mean plugged in?
Hello? Is there anybody out there? Hello? Hello? Is there anybody out there?
This will cut down to about 3 minutes 20.
I've probably read about 200 plus books on the Third Reich.
Maybe I'm thinking of the vampire hunter Lincoln.
I'm sure all those Nazis on the other side of the moon can all see the future, Nick.
I'll give more credit to the dinosaurs than I'll give to the Third Reich.
I look like some kind of weirdo stood next to the wall or something.
Millie, what do you say about that? That's what I thought.
Sponsored by Disney, all that.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I might listen to this one.
Let me talk, God damn it.